Hey, what's up everybody? This is OurMusicBox and today I wanted to show you guys the Fl4k crit build that I've been using with all the new Terror Anointed effects that we got with the Bloody Harvest event. Now, with all of these extremely strong anointed effects that we can get on our grenades, our shields, and our weapons, it turns the Fl4k crit builds that have always been really good at extreme burst damage, it turns them into a much better rounded build because you have so many different options. If you want to go into just straight more damage, if you want to change up your gear and go into some more utility stuff like ammo regen, or if you want to go into more defensive stuff like having higher health regen or healing for massive amounts of your HP every time you use an action skill. So let's go right into the talents. So going into the talent build, this is not going to be much different than a lot of other Fl4k crit builds you have seen. Most of them are a variation of going fully into the Stalker tree and then usually going into the Hunter tree and getting as much damage as you possibly can, with a few variations within this. Now, this isn't going to change too much with this build, but where this build is really changed up and has a lot of different options are the items, especially with all the new anointed effects from Bloody Harvest, like I said at the start of the video. So we can just go into the talents pretty quickly. First, we have Fierce Attack, which gives you a stacking gun damage and handling buff when shooting enemies. We have Overclocked, which gives you faster fire rate and then doubles that after you reload. We have Eager to Impress, which reduces your action skill cooldown when you kill enemies. Now, this is much better for mobbing and say doing, slaughter shafts or systems of slaughter, or just randomly killing enemies on the world, but also in most of the boss fights, if you need to focus on that and get your action skill up and you're actually thinking about that at the time, you can kill the ads, which pretty much every boss fight in the game, or a vast majority of them, have ads that you're able to kill to get your cooldown back quicker if you need to do that. Then we have Turn Tail and Run, which gives you health regen and damage reduction while you're moving and gives you gun damage and fire rate while standing still. I really actually like this talent and the overall talents of the game because it lets you have two different options of what you want to do. If you need to survive longer and get health back every second, you can just sprint around. But if you want to do more damage but also have the possibility of taking more damage because you're standing still, you could stand still and get a massive damage increase with extra gun damage and extra fire rate, which is a pretty massive damage increase. Then we have Hidden Machine, which gives you a 30% damage increase when targets are attacking something else, or it has no target. And with being a fadeaway build, you're invisible, so they're technically not going to have you a target, so that's just a big damage increase. Then we have the Fast and the Furious, which gives you a gun damage and movement speed increase while above half health, which is pretty massive. The movement speed is also really good when you're trying to dodge different abilities. Then we have the Power Inside. You and your pet gain damage increase when Fl4k activates an action skill, and that's doubled if you're at full health, so 50% if you're at full health. And this build is much more for killing bosses because it's clearly just incredible at that, but it's still really good at mobbing and stuff. But with going for bosses, you're always gonna have full health, so you can pop this and just burst on a boss super quickly. Hopefully some of the mini bosses and possibly the end boss, the first raid boss and the MAYHEM takedown, aren't going to be just stacked on stacked on stacked with immunity phases, which majority of the main bosses in the game currently have. Hopefully they go away from that and actually add other things that, don't just involve a boss going immune and you having to stand there and possibly do nothing for like 30 seconds. So next we're going into Hunter, which we have Interplanetary Stalker, which is a Hunter kill skill. Whenever you kill an enemy, you gain a stack, you gain damage per stack, and then killing other different types of enemies, so robots, humans, and beasts, will give you other additions on top of that 10% damage increase. Then we have 2 into Hunter's Eye, which gives you bonuses when fighting different things. You can see here. Now you can actually switch this up. You actually have a few different options, so you can take these and put them into Leave No Trace if you want to, which basically gives you a chance to get ammo back on crits. You can also take, say if you wanted to take something out of Dangerous Game or out of Big Game, you could put them in Leave No Trace as well, or put one of these up into Hunter's Eye. So there's a few different options in this build, but then you want to go head count. when you score a critical hit, there's a change your action skill cooldown is reduced. Then we have Two Fang, which is 25% chance to fire an additional projectile. That's a massive damage increase. Then we have Big Game, which your hunter skills become much more effective and have a longer duration. Then we have the Most Dangerous Game, which I did put 3 into, which when you kill a badass, you gain critical hit damage 20%, gun damage 50%. This is with an extra 3 for my class mod. 50% handling. It's a 120-second duration. Now, this, we'll pretty much have this up all the time, even without killing a badass, even on bosses, and we'll go over that once we get into the gear. Then we have a Galactic Shadow, which you deal critical hit damage, or you deal increased critical hit damage 50%, and enemies are less likely to attack you, which is just a pretty big damage increase. Now, getting into the items, first off, the reason that, say, something like the Most Dangerous Game and any other kill skill we have is really good with this build is because of the class mod we're using, which is the Bounty Hunter. You have a 3% chance to activate any purchased hunt kill skill when dealing gun damage, and bosses are now treated as humans, beasts, and robotics for Fl4k's hunt skills. So like I said, with that we can have any of our kill skills, including the Most Dangerous Game, pretty much up all the time, especially this one since it lasts so long. It'll always be up relatively easily. And then stuff like Hunter's Eye, if you want to put this in, you can definitely do this. Most likely this might actually do more damage, like putting up Big Game into this or something like that, but you do have a few options. This class mod definitely makes it so you do have a few more options. And if you want to go and leave no trace, I would definitely recommend going into this if it's a lower ammo weapon. So if it doesn't have a big magazine, especially if you don't have a ammo regen anointed effect like I do on this Transformers. So if you don't have one of those, you can definitely go into that if you feel like you need the ammo. So for the rest of the items, for the artifact I'm using is the Elemental Projector. You see this in some of my boss killing footage in this video. You can definitely use this, especially if you have, a sellout, which is just for my quest. This pretty much guarantees you're going to put Incinerate on yourself, so it's a massive damage increase if you have items that are doing, or if you have items matching up to the element you're applying to yourself. It's going to be one of the best, especially for boss kills. You can just burst through. This isn't going to be near as good for like mobbing and stuff, because you're not going to be wanting to constantly hurt yourself. While mobbing, you're just going to kill yourself all the time. For the grenade, I do have a pretty decent one. This is probably one of the stronger grenades since, hexes and firestorms were nerfed. But basically, the main thing I want with this, or you're going to want with this, is while terrified, gain increased damage and fire rate. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. Terror stacks up 3 times. At 3 stacks, it's like 15% damage increase and I think 12% fire rate. I know the damage should be correct, but I'm not 100% certain on the fire rate. So it's a pretty big increase. For the shield, I would definitely recommend trying to get the ammo regen on a shield. This is massive. I think it's like 12% of your magazine or something like that per second. I think that's how that's calculated when you're at max stacks of terror. And the higher the magazine, you're going to get a lot more. So say if you're using a Lucian's Call, you basically have unlimited ammo or close to unlimited ammo, which is actually one of the weapons I like to use a lot with this build because it's just such a good weapon. It's nice to use, it feels nice using, and it's just a really nice weapon. Looks really cool with those 2 barrels shooting, has a nice fire rate. It's all around a really nice weapon to use, and it's super strong. So with having this anointed effect, you almost never have to reload, as you'll see in some of the footage. Also, I have this pointy lineage, or lineage, I guess is pronounced. Now, this thing is pretty strong, but there is massive drawbacks with this, and I got a really good roll. I think this can roll from ×3 to ×5 on the pellets. But the issue with this weapon is, and I even got like one of the best anointed rolls on it, because if you don't know, this anointed roll will actually make certain weapons, I'm not sure if it's all, but this weapon, it'll do double pellets, so this will shoot 10 shots when that procs. But the issue with this weapon is even with having ammo regen, it doesn't regen how much you can shoot at a time. So to regen your full ammo count, but it's not like other weapons that, like Lucian's Call, where you won't just have to reload. It still breaks, and you still have to technically do the reload of this weapon. So I'll show you this right here. You don't have to shoot much, and it's already overheated, and then you have to do like the reload type things. Now, when you're terrified, because this thing consumes a lot of ammo per shot, and 4 per shot, and it shoots so quickly. Normally, you wouldn't be able to keep ammo on this, but with that ammo regen for the Anointed effect, you pretty much can. I would definitely recommend using this more for mobbing, because what you can do is basically just spray the whole burst out, and then either take cover for a second and let it, you know, do the reload technically of COV weapons. Or you can just switch weapons and get some really big bursts with it, and then say if you're in between rounds or between enemies, you can switch back to it, do the reload, all that type of stuff. So it's much better for weapon swapping and stuff like that than it is just bursting down a boss, because even though it does really good burst, you just you have to reload so quickly. And, you know, going to a Lucian's Call, you never have to reload. Now, what I'm getting my terror stacks with is I've ever done a face puncher. I've used this in other videos, other builds. I got so insanely lucky. This is one of the first weapons I got with the Bloody Harvest event. Basically, if you could get any face puncher with the melee attacks, you have a 25% chance to apply terror to yourself. You're set to go with terror stacks, because you could shoot this like 2 to 3 times, and you're always going to have guaranteed max stacks. A lot of the times with a redundant one like this, you can do 1 shot and have max stacks. So you just switch to this, shoot a shot or 2, switch back to your weapons. You're terrified for, I think it's like 15 seconds or something like that, or a little bit over that. So it's quite a long time, very strong. Now, some other weapons you can use besides the Lenoge and the Lucian's Call, you clearly can use Lyudas. They were nerfed, but they're still strong for destroying bosses. I don't have a lot of other super good weapons on me. Rowan's Call are super good. I do have a few of them that are radiation. I would much rather have different elements on this than radiation. But Rowan's Call are super good. Definitely right up there with Lucian's Call. I would say this is probably interchangeable with a Lucian's Call. They both are really good in their own right. Even something like a Fearmonger is really good, just because of how the build works. It's probably not going to be as good for like a crit build. Crossroads are still good. You have Star Helixes. These are all just the weapons that I actually still have on this from my radiation build, but Star Helixes are good. There's a ton of other weapons you could definitely use, especially with the new Anointed buffs. Actually, the Lucian's Call, which this is one of the strongest ones, the gain increased crit damage is like 90% at 3 stacks, I think is what it was tested at. So that's a massive buff. So tons of weapons can be really, really strong with these new buffs. And then we have the chance to fire an extra projectile. That's also super strong on a lot of weapons. So, you know, a lot of weapons could be super strong with these effects, but these are just some of the weapons that are going to be super strong with a crit build like this. So that is pretty much the entire build. It's a super strong build. Also, I forgot to give you guys the different things you can use. So I don't know. So I do have this on this hex right here. While terrified, gain health regen. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. You can switch out, like, say if you want to, you could switch out this with this, lose a little bit of damage, but you have a ton of health regen all the time. There's also one, do I have another one of these on me? So there's another effect that can also be, I think, on shields and grenades and weapons. I don't think I have any on me, but basically it's the effect. I might have one in here, but it's basically when you use an action skill, you are healed for a ton of your HP. It's a pretty big percentage, and it actually does stack if you wanted to do that. So I should have one in here somewhere, and I don't think I actually have one. But basically, you'll know the Anointed effect I'm talking about. Basically, on action skill end, you heal for a big percentage of your HP, and it increases with the amount of terror you have by 15%. And I think it's 25% baseline, so that's a massive chunk anytime you use Fade Away. So if you want to use that, if you want to switch those in for your shields and grenades, you can for more survivability. And that's another way that this build is just much more versatile. You could switch up to have, those defensive anointments or the defensive anointments, stuff like that. And also you could switch up your weapons a lot more because of how much stronger you are with the new anointed effects. So that's the entire build. Subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Oh, also, before the end of the video, I'm not going to be showing you guys any mobbing builds like Cistern of Slaughter or Slaughter Shaft or anything. I want to keep this one showing bosses much more because there's so much different variations of weapons using on bosses. I want to show some different bosses. It's still super good at mobbing because just using popping fadeaway and destroying pretty much any mob that isn't a boss almost instantly is always going to be pretty good. So subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about this build. If you have any questions about where to get these items, how the build works, anything like that, leave it in the comments. I try to reply to everybody, and thanks for watching.
The king